I'm Damien Gray. I'm a CG supervisor at Animalogic. I've been there for the past 10 years, and basically the role of a CG supervisor is to take the creative vision of the directors and turn that into processes, tools, pipeline, workflow for the artists so that they can deliver to the scale and the scope of that vision. I think it was the 2006 film Happy Feet, which was our first animated feature. And then from there, we also worked on Legend of the Guardians, Owls of Ga'Hoole as well. So we've done two large animated features before now. So this is sort of a natural fit for us, a progression, if you will, of the kind of style and the theme of film. So we like to work on projects that have very rich photoreal or even hyper-real qualities to them. So, you know, anything that's lighting or gritty or has a good textural quality to it, so that photoreal nature. We've sort of avoided a lot of the traditional sort of cartoon CG, sort of very clean, very plastic looking films, because we sort of specialize in a lot of that photoreal work, sort of that juicy sort of stuff. So it started with Happy Feet and penguins, lots of feathers, lots of ice, and it kind of went from there into Legend of the Guardians with lots of owls and, again, lots of feathers and very organic environments and trees and foliage and forests and stuff like that. So yeah, we kind of had been building our pipeline for a number of years. With each film, we take the opportunity to rework our pipeline, improve our processes, streamline it as much as possible. So this one was kind of an interesting one. I think when it was initially sort of presented to us as a team, we sort of initially thought, Lego, CG Lego. Well, CG is very good at doing plastic. And so that was kind of a challenge, because once that sort of initial idea of doing a CG Lego film sort of sunk in, and you sort of start to break it down, start to think about, well, what does that mean? What can we do with that? So, we sort of have to challenge the audience's expectations of that. Again, CG is very good at doing plastic things. So, but how can we mix that up? So, we and it came from the directors, really. I mean, they started off with a brief that was, they showed us a little brick films. So brick films are these fantastic little shorts that Lego fanatics put together in their own time. They do these little stop motion animations using minifigs, and it's done with crude equipment sometimes, and there's shaky cameras, and there's fingerprints on everything, and there's lens flares, and there's all sorts of these imperfections in it, but there's a real charm and quality to it. And because they're fans, it's not coming from a corporation, it's not coming from Lego. Because they're fans, and you can really feel the love that they have for these characters and these things that they animate. So, and with all of those imperfections, that handcrafted look, that was the very thing that we wanted to latch onto. I said, well, that's what we need to make our film about. It had been said a few times that if this film felt like it came from the Lego Corporation, that it just would not work. From the very beginning, we knew we did not want to make a 90-minute toy commercial. So we really wanted to harness that love and appreciation and enthusiasm that the Lego community has. So this, in a way, was a real tribute to the fans, and we knew that there was a hook to hang this film on there. I guess it started in early 2010. Animalogic worked on a short animated piece for Lego and the Cartoon Network called Lego Star Wars Padawan, The Padawan Menace. And in that was kind of representative of what it meant to have CG Lego at that time. So that was very plastic looking CG, very bendy elbows. Basically, it tried to do all of the tricks that traditional CG animation with bendy characters, squash and stretch, do so well, but sort of putting a minifig in the role of the main character. And what we found was that, there was kind of an authenticity. There was kind of an authenticity that was lost in doing that, because it's hard to believe that something that's so hard looking and so square looking can bend in the way that it does. So we knew we didn't want to do that. So at the end of that project, we took some of the assets, we made a few tweaks to them. We mocked up our lead protagonist, Emmett, and we put him through an audition test. And we put him in a little environment with a bunch of studs. We put him in a small environment with some Lego plates on the ground. we plugged him into that. So we grounded him in a Lego world and made that character conform to the Lego rules. So if he made a step, he would step onto another stud. If he was to move his arms, he could only move them in a way that a Lego minifig could. So there's only 9 points of articulation on a Lego minifig. So, we had to come up with ways to make this character emote and engage with the audience with very little to work with. They're very simple faces. But I think the saying, it's not what you've got, but what you do with it is quite important, and it's very true for the Lego film. The subtle movements that the eyes have or the mouth has, with so little features on the face, I think we found it, just being really careful and judicial with what we did with the eyes and the mouth and the arms, and we hit those poses, got the timing down, and we experiment with that a lot. And I think once you can actually emote with a character with those limitations, that the fact that it's a minifig that has square legs and doesn't have knees and can't bend its elbows, I think that, you kind of buy that and it has an authenticity to it. So I think, you suspend the audience's disbelief through being truthful to what it is that they're looking at. And then layering on that with very sort of careful timing and facial expressions that still engage and give the audience emotional resonance with that character and that performance. And the dialogue helps immensely there, because you can really feel Emmett's emotions, and when he delivers a line of dialogue, and just supporting that with very simple gestures and careful facial animation. We found that actually worked quite well. I think from the very beginning we knew it was a funny film. So unlike most projects, when we started, there was a full animatic of the entire film done. Storyboards, full animatic. So that was new to us. And from the beginning, there were a lot of gags in there, and there were a lot of laugh out loud moments. So I think that was very encouraging to us from the very beginning. So I think as far as we were concerned, we knew that we had a very funny film, which was a bit of a pressure, I guess, because we had to live up to the humor that was in the script and that was in the boards that were so present at the beginning. So being truthful to that, supporting that was the challenge. And I guess it had been said a few times that this film was if it was a 10-year-old Michael Bay and Henry Selick in a basement with an unlimited amount of Lego and time, what kind of film would they come up with? So, right there in that statement, something epic and absurd was what we needed to achieve. So, there were some great moments, and we knew we needed to sort of bring that sort of, energy and excitement and epicness to our shots, but still ground it in sort of an absurdity and a handmade, handcrafted feel. So I think perhaps maybe the interrogation scene in the film where Emmett's interrogated by Bad Cop about the Master Builders. That was kind of a moment where we broke from the norm. Up until that point in production, it was one of a sequence that was put into production quite early. And some of the reference for that was quite interesting. We took references from Basic Instinct in terms of lighting design and The Rock, Michael Bay's The Rock. And right there, we knew we were infusing it and injecting with sort of a level of sort of, I guess, the visual sophistication that we were trying to achieve, but with such simple characters. The absurdity of that was kind of, I guess, the moment when we actually finished that scene, with the extreme shallow depth of field and Bad Cop leaning towards camera and us tracking very carefully to that, but still having a handheld camera feel. And the way Emmett responds to Bad Cop is just hilarious. But then, in the lighting design of that scene, which is very serious and very foreboding, it was that sort of absurdity, that sort of contrast where I think we sort of, that kind of for us, I guess, grounded us. Okay, well, that's the film. That's the epicness and the absurdity. That's the right level, the right mix that we're looking for. So I think from there, we sort of upped the ante with a lot of the chase sequences and, some of the silly stuff that follows. I guess some of the challenges were how we're going to deliver on the scope and the size of the film. So in doing that, very early on, we made the decision to go with something that was completely brick-based. So rather than building a cube and putting a displacement map on it so that it looked like it was made from bricks, we wanted to really make that from bricks. so that the animators could drive a vehicle through it and smash it into 1 million bricks, so that we could, pretty much be free to be truthful to a brick film. So very early on, that was kind of set for us. So the challenge was how we were going to do that. So initially, we started to build a brick library. So we had to come up with tools and techniques and a pipeline and a workflow. We had to build from scratch a brick library and a brick pipeline. So on some of the previous projects, we had done a lot of sort of sub-asset type work where we'd take a character and we'd break it down into its components, and we'd get people to work on the feathers, and we'd have other people do the modeling, and we'd bring those together. So on this project, we need to take it yet another level deeper than that. We need to take the model and then deconstruct that into its bricks. So we had to sort of build a pipeline and a process where we could have modelers actually model bricks that were appropriate for our rendering, and that could then feed into rigging, that could then feed into animation, that surfaces could work in parallel to that and actually apply some of the surfacing to it. And then more than that, we found that when we had a whole entire wall full of bricks, all with the same surfacing, that that wouldn't work. That just looks too CG. We can see the same scratches on each brick. So again, we sort of have to build a process and pipeline where we could layer in multiple variations of bricks and deliver assets that sort of embodied or that level of detail. So there were other things that we did to give it that level of authenticity, like develop tools and techniques to apply what we call jitter. So jitter is what we call the gaps between bricks. So in a real model, not all the bricks are always pressed together completely. Some of them are left unseated or lopsided. So you can see the gaps in a lot of the bricks in a Lego model. So that kind of level of detail, we needed to build tools to support that all the way through the pipeline. Further to that, we need to support the animators. We knew that we wanted the animators to have a very free environment in which they could be inventive and playful with the bricks themselves. So, and we knew we didn't want to bottleneck that. Traditionally, we would model something, we would rig it, we would surface it, we would give it to an animator, they would animate it, and then it would go to lighting. We needed to break that down a little bit more because that requires a lot of pre-planning. So we sort of wanted to give animators the ability to be spontaneous. So we gave them the entire brick library. So we modeled 2008, I think, bricks in the end. And what we did was we developed a tool for them so that they could actually pull from that library of bricks directly, assemble them in their scene, animate them however they like, and then deliver that directly to lighting. It would take the default surfacing that we had done on each of the bricks, but it didn't have to go through this sort of designing and planning process. Often Grant Freckleton would walk the animation floor, sit with an animator, and they'd build a model. Sometimes the animator would just build a model on their own. There were some ideas that could just play out on the floor in a very creative and playful way, and then they could be pitched back to Chris McKay in Animation Daily. So there are a lot of scenes in the films where there are some things that are just completely animation built that look fantastic and they're really playful. And I think that really sort of helped the vision for the film, that playfulness, removing obstacles so that people can do what they do and do it at the best of their ability without getting bogged down with, how things might get from A to B, or whether they have something to explore an idea in the first place. So those sorts of things that I looked at and we worked on to get the tools and the process down so that we could support that kind of work.